Joining us now is Timothy Snyder, professor of history at Yale University. He is the author of, among many books, the bestseller On Tyranny, 20 Lessons from the 20th Century. Professor Snyder, it's a real pleasure to see you. It's been too long. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Very glad to be with you.
In terms of how tyranny works and how authoritarianism works, I'm a little bit worried that I'm seeing this through too American a lens, and I'm seeing all of this recent American precedent for the sort of thing that we saw in Brazil this weekend. Should I be looking at this with a wider and more international lens, that this is the sort of thing that authoritarian movements and far-right movements do all the time? This shouldn't echo January 6th so much as we should see it as a typical right-wing fascist pro-authoritarian tactic that people use all over the world.
Well, I think you're right to point to the evident similarities between January 6th and January 8th. But I think both January 6th and January 8th, as you suggest, are about larger trends too. One of them is to discredit institutions. When you storm institutions, when you show you can make yourself physically present in institutions, when you break windows, when you trash the place, what you're showing is symbolically, physically, that institutions don't matter. What matters is force. What matters is will. And that, of course, is one of the oldest, one of the classic anti-democratic or anti-rule of law moves. You show disrespect for the institutions physically, and then all that seems to be left is the possibility that a person, a strong man, something besides these institutions, should be running the country. If we can humiliate the institutions, then we get the strong man. And that's a logic which is on display here in Brazil and in the US, but it's also a classic logic. And then likewise, a lie, an alternative reality, a strong belief among lots of people that what happened is not what happened, that we didn't really lose the vote. We really won the vote. That's common between January 6th and January 8th, but it's also a big 20th century, 21st century phenomenon, big lies which capture lots of people. But with the recent twist, and I think this is true of both Brazil and the US, that it's social media bubbles which allow this to happen. I think there's an odd way in which the people who are storming these buildings are kind of emerging from alternative reality into real reality as they do it. And they're sure they're right because they're not hearing any other voices in the social media reality where they live.
In terms of contending with the kind of tactical power of those things that you're describing, I think in terms of standing up for democracy, trying to protect democracy against these kinds of forces and attacks, how much does it matter that there is swift accountability for the people who participate in it and the people who organize it? One of the differences between January 8th in Brazil, January 6th in the United States, is that we saw a lot of arrests in Brazil, and that we've got a sitting president who is the successor to Bolsonaro saying that those who participated in this and those who organized it will be held accountable swiftly and surely. What role does accountability in the legal system, the criminal justice system, play in fending this off as a tactic against democracy?
Yeah, I mean, the comparison is absolutely right. And I'm very pleased for the Brazilian government that they were able to react so quickly. It's very important that people who try to carry out this kind of fascist move are aware that the law also has force beside it. One of the things they're trying to do is monopolize force themselves. They're trying to say, we are the ones who control violence. We intimidate you. We intimidate the law. We're going to do something which is so strange and confusing and violent that you won't know how to react to it. And there was a bit of that in the U.S. on January 6th. It was so strange and unexpected and violent that the people the criminals just walked away from the crime scene. That's odd. We didn't see that in Brazil today. And it's really important. It's really important because things like this, they're kind of a test of force. The people who are on the far right, that's what they believe in. They believe in force. And if they don't meet any force on the other end, then they're going to continue. And that doesn't mean that the people who are defending law should be unpredictable. It means that they should be predictable. It means that they should be confident that something like this is a crime, and that the pictures like the ones we're seeing, where if you commit a crime, you go and destroy property, you commit all kinds of crimes, that you might just end up on a bus, handcuffed, that's normal. That democracies, because the story that fascists always tell is democracies are weak. They won't fight back. They're flabby. They're decadent. And I think it's pretty important for democracies to be able to say, no, actually, we stand for something, and that something we stand for is law.
I think that point that you just made, too, is very important about how there is a tactical impact to seeming unpredictable, chaotic, weird, strange, and that treating these things as crimes, among other things, and and accountability is an important concept. But among other things, using the criminal law to respond to things like this has an effect of rationalizing the experience of what the country has just been through, of imposing not only order in terms of people being held accountable, but also a framework of understanding that this is a crime. This is something that exists within our system. It does not destroy our system. Our system itself can handle things like this. I think that rationalizing force is an important insight.
Yeah, and that we're all equal before the law. That we're all equal before the law. That any of us does something like this. It's very, you were asking directly about Trump. It's very important for a democracy not to have these superheroes or supervillains who are judged by different standards. It's very important that executives and former executives be subject to the rule of law, because once you start developing a legal theory according to which they're exceptional people, that little loophole will just grow bigger and bigger all the time.
Timothy Snyder, professor of history at Yale University, the author of, among many other books, On Tyranny, 20 Lessons from the 20th Century, which is mandatory reading that you must do before watching The Rachel Maddow Show in any regular way. Professor Snyder, thank you for your time tonight. It's good to see you.
Thank you.